America, the burger state, the freedom state, the gun state, the we fry and put sugar in everything state, the gas guzzler state, the Hollywood superstate, the dream state. America, how are you doing? It seems we need to have a talk. When you want to put your hand on the pulse of what direction a country is going in, you can look at literally tens of different factors: the economy, class-based wealth inequality, ethnic divisions, generational misunderstanding, political rhetoric of those in power, citizen buying power, foreign policy, and so on and so on and so on. But the American brain doesn't seem to give a gokurats about any of these, so we'll politely ignore them for today. As long as you can own the libs, make fun of the rednecks, or go back to brunch, the American psyche is at ease. Trump was terrifying because he was a mirror American society had to face, so they replaced it with a barely standing, dementia-stricken one. Now, it's the conservatives' turn to do the screeching until the tables turn again and again and again. This loop of almost pretend conflict between the good and the bad, limited to 4-year intervals, is a sort of reboot button for Americans. When the time comes, everything bad the previous administration did is brushed under the rug, using the excuse that this is not what America is really about, so that it can go on and repeat the same mistakes, in the grander scheme of things, of course, as before, just painted in a different brush. So, while I was sitting there, one hand in my pants and the other one on a cold glass of brewski, thinking of what sort of video on the slow downturn of the American empire would resonate with most of you tavarishi, I got an idea. None of you care about facts, statistics, numbers, lines going up or down. We live for our content, for our media, for shit to watch, read, listen to, and consume. So I thought, why not just do that? Paint a picture of where shit's heading through literal headlines. Lucky for us, that would not be too unscientific. Media adjusts to demand, and demand is built on opinions. Whatever the mainstream stress points are, the fears, concerns, points of pride, etc., define what most articles are going to be about. Therefore, in a roundabout way, my tavarishi, the way to feel the pulse of a country, much more intimately than through graphs and statistics, is by looking at what they write. So, in order to have a true overview of the current state of things and the wider informational agenda being pushed in the States, we'll divide the conversation in 4 stages of grief, just like with a breakup. Denial, telling people you're still in a relationship, or in this case, the media fighting anti-establishment rhetoric and undermining geopolitical competitors. Number 2, anger, telling her you'll beat the shit out of her new boyfriend, or a call for war as a means to re-establish oneself. Number 3, bargaining, telling her you're not that bad actually, and you're ready to change, but not really, as there's no better option than you out there, or the system is good actually, we shouldn't complain about our current state of affairs. Number 4, depression and acceptance. Everything is horrible, but let's embrace it. So, without further ado, let's get started. When shit is degrading and artists feel it, they transform their work to include stories about said degradation, with class division thankfully coming to the forefront of all discussions on how we're supposed to run our society. Tons of films, shows, and other media can't help but criticize the state of things, sometimes directly, sometimes through metaphor. Kind of like when your friends constantly tell you that you're in a toxic relationship, with that toxic relationship in this case being America's connection to capitalism and imperialism. Your toxic partner, though, or in this case, the status quo, really doesn't like that. As long as you have media talking shit and dehumanizing foreign enemies and their systems, all is good. But if you do it domestically, a barrage of self-hating journalists will do their best to claim, this actually isn't about capitalism or America. This is about the other thing, the opposite thing. You're just too dumb to get it, like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. The whole system is literally bloody gaslighting us. Squid Game, Hunger Games, and most of all, The Platform are films so in your face about the dangers of class oppression that a monkey with half of its brain intact would get it. Yet, mass media, in support of the status quo, can't help but go full mask off and pretend fire is actually water. We can't have the kids radicalizing or garnering class consciousness, now can we? We can't have massively popular media breaking all the charts, shout out at the top of its lungs that the world, the way it is structured right now, is unsustainable, corrupt, and built on the backs of the most vulnerable. No, peasants, your uneducated eyes didn't really get these films or shows. Trust me, everything is fine.
I'm good. How are you feeling about all of what I'm doing? Did you like that? Did you think that was good? Tell me I'm good. Tell me it was good. Tell me I'm good. Tell me I'm good. Tell me that was good. Tell me.
But denial is never just directed inwards. Oh, no. In order for you to no longer be number one, that would mean someone else will be. And we can't have that, now can we? She'll come back to me, right? Right, boys? Right? Or in geopolitical terms, they're about to fail at any moment now, boys. They're crumbling. Oh my god, they're falling apart, boys. There's nobody she can replace me with, boys. I'm still number one. No matter what you think about China, BRICS nations in general, the weakening of the US dollar as a hegemonic tool of economic control, or the questioning of the EU's sub-dom relationship with the US, things are a-changing. But of course, at this early stage of our breakup with world dominance, we can't possibly believe this, possibly accept this. No, that's too scary. Instead, let's just talk shit to ourselves about how we're still special, unlike the other guys, the states, who won't be able to ever take our spot.
Cope, seethe, stay mad. I don't give a shit.
Hell, man, I don't need to tell myself I'm better than the new guy when I can show them. I've grown too weak and complacent, allowing these other states to come up in my hood and take my woman. My position in the geopolitical hierarchy. It's time to hit the military-industrial gym and remind everyone what I'm made of. No more of this weak shit. When a liberal is cut, a fascist bleeds, as they say. The status quo preserves itself at any cost, if need be. Titles like the ones on screen, coming from incredibly basic mainstream news sources, should, all jokes aside, be very, very concerning. The time of strife, economic imbalance, and conflict creates a field ripe for the birth of fascism. Just like after any breakup, a country can choose to look deep inside of itself, find genuine problems, in this case systematic, and try to heal them and address them. Or it can envelop itself in a reactionary fury, digging deeper into the very issues which caused the breakup in the first place. Yes, basically, I'm saying if a country behaves like a petty bitch, it risks going full fascist. If the US, in the coming decades of slow burn downturn, refuses to accept its place in the new world order, it will, for the lack of a better word, become undateable. And well, we all know how those dudes like to shoot up schools. Going to bars, a metaphor for overseas, and beating the shit out of everyone who looks at you funny, imperialism, isn't going to cut it anymore. I'm sorry, it's time to grow up. And, well, the world sure as hell will appreciate it. My favorite, bargaining.
Huffin McMullen, candidate for the U.S. Senate, former undercover CIA officer. My role in the CIA was to go out and convince Al-Qaeda operatives to instead work with us. Are you suggesting that CIA is in cahoots with Al-Qaeda? You actually teach your students this garbage at Northeastern, my goodness.
A point at which the dumped party tries to postpone or distance themselves from the reality of the situation. Here we have a repackaging of things we know are pretty messed up about us. Instead of dismantling them, we try to explain them to ourselves. For example, me being passive-aggressive at my partner is because I care and want to fix them, not because of internal shit I've got brewing in me. My Clinginess isn't because I wasn't loved much as a kid and now I need to make up for it with my partner. No, it's because people are untrustworthy and jealousy is very healthy, actually. Or, in the case of the US, this obviously insanely set up system, which benefits a tiny minority, isn't really a problem. Actually, the problem is people who are telling me it's a problem. We should actually double down and give more power to everyone who's driving the country to hell for personal monetary interests. The definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again, thinking things would change. And while most healthy people have learned this and apply it to their relationship with other humans, they need to start applying it to their governments and corporate bosses as well. To say it the way my fellow or not, you decide how old I am, Gen Z comrades would say it, the whole country is gaslighting us into staying in a relationship. And it's kind of working. As we all know, acceptance usually comes after depression, but in the case of the United States, it's more of a package deal. You know they love those. Buy one depression, get one acceptance free. It's just that with most package deals, you don't really get the top shelf stuff, and neither do we get that here. In standard interpretation, acceptance should be the point when you realize your past errors, fix them, and end up moving on. Working on yourself, pushing through that bargaining and depression period. Discounted Yankee acceptance, on the other hand, is the opposite, because you're the top dog, or at least you think you are, so you choose to embrace and accept your role fully.
You strip off the mask you never even believed in the first place. Cheating on your partner, foreign policy was never about freedom, liberation, or democracy, but simple textbook imperial conquest. And it feels so good to say it. You were always talking about being cancelled because you wanted to say bigoted shit. You talked shit about women because you wanted to break their faces in. You blew up wedding cities, turned whole countries into unlivable wastelands, not out of some great sense of purpose, but because you could. And you know what? Hell yes that we did that. You start telling yourself, screw the masks we've been wearing for so long. It's time to live up to who we always knew we were, the top dog. And as top dog, we are ready to crush any internal or external threat as we see fit.
Core tenets of fascism teach us that the fall of empire is a perfect breeding ground for far-right elements. And yes, the US is still not even close to being number 2, 3, or 66, but eventually it will be. It's an unavoidable fact, no matter how much internalized American exceptionalism might be telling you it's not. On top of that, American foreign policy defined by their Cold War era, which is being actively rekindled in the past half-decade, should make us very concerned, to say the least. It's one thing for a random neoliberal state to embrace the bad guy vibe. It's a completely different ballgame when the world's greatest superpower does exactly the same. Something that would be very unfortunate because of the millions of brilliant minds that live there, minds that could enrich every global movement of progress. It's going to be on them, the Yanks, like them or not, to determine what kind of country they'll live in when it's no longer the only big dog on the market. And it's on the rest of us to be prepared in case they choose wrong. Well, that was different. If you'd like to support this channel, consider donating over on PayPal or Patreon. For the price of less than 1 can of beer, you'd be helping the channel stay as independent as possible. If not, then hit all those buttons you see on screen, like, subs, bells. It helps the channel fight the algorithm. Now that we got that out of the way, I'd like to thank all the wonderful tavarishi without whom this channel wouldn't even be able to run. Especially It's Lenin Time, Ron Wing, Fred Brennan, Display Name, Red American, Jesus Salcero, Dead Spartan 08, Script 39B1, Probably Fang, Tankakis Posidus, Maitake Kun, Kaylee's, Lilia 17, Grimwater, Red Messiah, Libino, B Matt, Soup, Deep Red Wine, Dart023, Maynard, Carlos de Luna, Faith Fioca, Johnny Soda, Cvetan, Loss, Jocelyn Esperanza, Dwordnitzek Zonder, Justin Case, Exploited Human Commodity Guy, Evie Wren, Daniel Sack, Mugicha, Sean, Adam Takasha Dong, Nikola Radovanovic, Stuart Frank, Ian Snyder, Thomas Rawson Wood, The Poultism, Zane Guevara, The Muffin Man, Mike Lunning, Boyan, K. Eel, Alki Historiker, User, Clement Faze, Neil Suryo, Simon Eggs, Marussia Asarabakara.